It's a very old question, a traditional question, ko aham, in the Upanishadic tradition, ko aham. But at the same time, it's not a question that is asked without its counterpart, which is kuto jagat, whence the world. These were the classical questions that a seeker would ask his teacher, his guru, his master. But before arriving at this question, there were certain prerequisites. And those prerequisites it's in the Viveka Chudamani and it's also here, which I will just read out. This is a work called Brahmavidya Panchakam, and the beginning of it gives you an idea of what sort of a person is fit to ask this question. It's a composition by Narayana Guru called Brahmavidya Panchakam. So he says, Nitya Nitya Vivekato hi niratam, nirvedam, etc. So a well-learned one, because of being naturally endowed with the ability to discriminate the eternal from the transient aspects of life, becomes completely uninterested in the transient. Then he is endowed with what is called the Shatka Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. That means he is of calm mind. He has the ability to put up with difficulties. He has faith in the words of his teacher, and such qualities are necessary. Only after he has established himself, or he has disciplined himself, and he has served a teacher and come to be approved by that teacher, then he can ask the question, ko aham kuto jagat. So then the question becomes very meaningful, because you have undergone a certain discipline. So who am I? Ko aham, and its corollary, kuto jagat, whence this world. Today in Ramana Maharishi's teachings, we find that he emphasized the question, who am I? When people came to him, he would instruct them, go and ask the question, who am I? In Narayana Guru's works, he says, find out what is this-ness. So for him, the world is a product of this-ness. For example, he says, this is a pot. In that the this is generic and the pot is specific. And it so happens that because of the specificity of things, our mind gets so impressed by the specificity that we are not able to discern the generic consciousness from where that specific idea arose. So you can say, this is a book, this is a table, this is a chair, this is Fernhill, this is the world, this is the universe, this is a galaxy, this is a black hole, this is Einstein. You can keep on elaborating the this, but once you say is a and you make it specific, then your mind shifts to the specific aspects and you forget that there is a generic this-ness, a consciousness of this-ness from which the specific isness emerged. So his advice is to meditate on the this, so which is to my mind much more significant in today's world, because we are living in a much more developed or materially developed world. So it's very difficult for somebody to start immediately thinking of who am I, unless that person's mind, as we said in the beginning, has already undergone certain disciplines and calmed down and attained some stability. Then, of course, you can inquire into who am I. But before that, you can always inquire into what is this, to find the generic behind all the specifics. So that's the first step. And then at a deeper level, you will come to this is knowledge. And if you can meditate on this is knowledge, then this will take you to the universal. So there are two aspects to it. There is what we call a horizontal aspect, this is a pot, and there is a vertical aspect called this is knowledge. So start by meditating on the this that creates the multifarious world, and then go deeper down and then realize that is a form of knowledge. This is knowledge. And then this will take you to transcendence. Remember, even asking who am I, is only a step towards transcendence. We want to transcend. Life is paradoxical, you cannot solve the paradox. You want to transcend it. And the path to transcendence was by inquiring into the nature of I, or the I am, and then discovering that I am is emerging from a universal consciousness, an eternal consciousness, which delimits itself to form an I. And that creates the sense of being an individual. And we want to dissolve that sense of individuality and merge with the universal. The point is that from the pluralistic experiences that we have, which have the tendency to attract us or repel us, the mind can be attracted to things or objects, the five senses are there, and the five senses can attract you, or the five senses can repel you. So when the mind is caught between this repulsion and attraction, so meditating on this will help us to overcome that initial level of attraction and repulsions. Because we find the source from where that attraction or repulsion is arising, what is the substance out of which it is emerging, like a wave in the ocean. Waves are rising from the ocean. Similarly, these objective experiences are rising from a this-ness, from a generic consciousness called this-ness.
There's a common idea that the modern man is, we live in a world of distractions, and you were speaking to your friends just now, you were telling that we're distracted and we're not seeing the essence of what is. But do you think there is also an advantage of our time? There is some advantage of this time that we're living in that helps us, because of the developments of our time and everything, that helps us grasp what is this or who am I, as opposed to people who were living 100 years ago, the common man, I mean.
That's an interesting question. You see, because time itself is an illusion. And Plato speaks of time being a moving image of eternity. So we have to remember that in the higher philosophies and mystic states, the sense of time or history goes away. So essentially we are the same people. Whether you talk of an ancient person or a modern person, in our essential being we are not different. The changes have happened very superficially. What you call evolution or developments, they've happened only on the periphery of our consciousness. Basically, we are still the same human beings. So, if you read an epic like Mahabharata, or you see the plays of Shakespeare, or you talk of the archetypes of Jung, so fundamentally there are only a few basic types of human beings which are the same, no matter which age you live in. There's going to be a kind person, there's going to be an aggressive person, whether you were in ancient times or whether you were in modern times. It's the character, it's the personality that remains the same. And when you talk of Vedanta or spiritual life, we want to change that basic human quality. It's a qualitative change, not a quantitative change. And when you say modern life is a quantitative change. We suddenly have much more stuff than our ancient predecessors had. And what we've developed is only the peripheral features. Machines are like extensions of our limbs, hands, feet. Computers are extensions of our mind, etc. So we have not really touched the core of a human being. When we say modern, we have not touched the modern human being. As a friend was talking about literature, in Western culture, the literature rose when spirituality or religion died out in the world wars and the kind of catastrophes they had. When religion started losing its hold, literature came and filled the void with Dostoevsky and Camus bringing in ideas of absurdity, existentialism, etc., etc. So when we come to things like Vedanta, we are going to a deeper level of something which has not changed. So the claim of the Vedantin is that there is an unchanging reality that underlies all the change. And if a person wants to attain peace of mind, no matter which culture or which era he or she is living in, they must be able to experience that unchanging flow, that unchanging foundation of all of existence. Whether it is objective or subjective, doesn't matter. Both arise from the same source. So that is the claim of the Vedantin, that there is only one source, and that source, when it manifests, when it becomes, the becoming is manifold, but the being is one. And the disciplines that we are offering, like Who Am I, is a way to get back into the being, to lose the grip of becoming so that we go back to the being. And that is experienced as one's own peace and happiness. It's very experiential. So as one gets closer to this understanding, one begins to experience a peace of mind, a deep peace that surpassed understanding, and consequently a happiness that is enduring. The problem with the material world is that your happiness doesn't endure. It doesn't last very long. So where can I find happiness that was enduring? Where can I find peace of mind that will last, will not vanish? That is what provokes this search. And that's what comes from a mature mind, a mind who has already explored and has discovered for themselves the transitory nature of the joys that our senses and our mind give us, and the dissatisfaction that comes from that, which is reflected in stories of Yoga Vasishta and Arjuna, that Vishada, that kind of a despondency that comes, Buddha, when they look at the world and they realize it's all a transitory phenomena that's going on, and then there is a search for something more enduring. So that's where the Who Am I comes in.
Narayana Guru's work has his language, and I believe his verses have brought down his mystical visions down to forms that are accessible to the common man.
Yes.
Yeah?
So when we come to Narayana Guru, there's a word we use here called revaluation. And he follows a long list of teachers. Narayana Guru himself says, I am following what Shankara says. Shankara is already following what the Upanishad said, etc. But his unique ability was to remove any kind of esoteric or mystical or mysterious or any kind of difficult to understand aspects of it, the scholastic aspects, the very logical aspects, and make it experiential for everybody. His philosophy could be called as ontological, beginning with us as human beings, as each and every human being. So saying wherever you are, whatever you are, from there, you start from there. Don't try to be somebody else. That's a mistake we make. When we think we are spiritual life, we must change our life and become something else. So that's not what Guru teaches. He says he's giving you ways to spiritualize your life from your perspective. And the way he does that is by first fixing the locus of your search by saying it is Karu. So that's an ontological essence of the physical and the metaphysical. The very first verse of the Atmopadesha Satakam. Arivilameri, Arinjadan, etc. So there he says Karu. That is a normative notion. A notion is an idea, and it's a normative idea that from which you can measure, from which you can evaluate. And that is the Karu, the core. So the core which has both the transcendent and the immanent, the subjective and the objective, all in that one center. Beyond and in, that is immanent and transcendent, within, without, the subjective object. So he begins from there so that you are grounded in your own self. So it's straight away it points out to yourself. Secondly, he uses examples from nature, which is common to everybody. He doesn't use scholarly examples. He talks of the sun, the lamp, the ocean. He takes examples from nature. And it has to be taught with analogies, with symbols. So he takes the analogies from nature itself. The tree, the vine growing on the tree, So it's absolutely wonderful the way he brings this knowledge to everybody. Writing in Malayalam language, also Tamil. At the same time, also writing in Sanskrit for those who want to go more into the tradition, those who want to learn it in the traditional Shankara fashion. Sanskrit composition is there. For common people, the Devadashakam is there, which is a philosophical prayer. It's a prayer form, but it's full of philosophical ideas. For those who want to do a ritual, the Homam is there, which is again completely infused with Vedanta ideas. So he was able to bring the Vedantic notions down to our common everyday experiences. In the temple, put a mirror. So in different ways, bring your awareness to the self, which is what Vedanta is trying to say, Tattvamasi, you are that. And with that comes the responsibility. If you are going to be thinking that you are the absolute or you are a spiritual person, then happiness of another becomes your happiness. So ethics comes in. So his ethics is also based on the self. So it's a very brilliant vision of spiritualizing one's life without unnecessary exaggerations or any kind of false attributes or anything like that. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing of forgetfulness. So for a Vedantins, the problem is a forgetfulness only. We do not lose it, we forget it. And so it just takes a charismatic teacher or a good teacher to come and just remind you, hey, look, this is what you are, this is what reality is. You were confused, you got confused, you forgot, you got carried away. So you just bring them back to their own true nature. So it's just forgetful. It's a forgetfulness, and that is the Maya thing. That you're like you get into a dream, you get into a kind of hallucination, and you start imagining all kinds of things, and you forget what the real was.
Yesterday we were talking about the fruit of the Maya tree. The Maya tree is something. Where is that from? That phrase?
Atmopadeshadakam. Yeah, Maya, of course, is a technical word in Vedanta, because that is the only word, the word they use to explain the nature of the world. There are many definitions, satasat vilakshanam, it is not, yasa sa maya. There are many ways to explain it. Shankara, of course, he uses Maya. One of the ways to think of Maya is measurement. Ma means measurement. So when you say yesterday, today, you said it's now yesterday. So when you say yesterday, you're fragmenting time. You're thinking time has a yesterday, it has a today, tomorrow. If you say near and far, why are you sitting so far? Then I have fragmented space. So that is the force of Maya. In today's example, we read the silver and the pearl. Silver on the pearl, the silveriness of a pearl. That is again a question of Maya. There's no real silver on a pearl. Pearl looks silvery, but that's not silver. Or the snake in the rope. So this kind of adhyasa or superimposition, the mind tends to superimpose its own prejudicial ideas, which are gained from childhood. When you are a child, you make the first mistake is they tell you you're a body. Then you get to learn from your parents, your school, your friends. So already we are having many accretions, many ideas in our head. And those all have to be cleared when you start studying something like Vedanta. So you need some very clear notions which are not prejudiced by any, or not colored. Shelley, the great poet, Shelley spoke about it. The world, like a many-colored dome, colors the white radiance of eternity. So eternity is a white radiance, and the world is like a multicolored dome which colors it. This kind of insight is there by people all over the world. Mystics have it, Blake has it, Spinoza has it, subspecie eternitatis by Spinoza, seeing things under the aegis of the eternal. See things in the eternal, under the aegis of eternal. Blake says it, eternity is in love with the productions of time. So when we talk of self, then we think that there is this there's something, the eternity of existence. When you talk of sensory things, fleeting and going. Just now the train has gone, it's gone. Everything is going, passing, moving. That discrimination should be there. Nitya nitya vastu viveka. A person who wants to ask, who am I, should first have that ability to distinguish between what is just passing by, it's going to be just temporary, and what is lasting, what is going to be eternal. So that is called nitya nitya vastu viveka.